and welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about Home Before Dark, and hopefully I can make you guys read it if you're not thought of it before. So let's get right into what I thought about this book. Okay, so this is my first book by Riley Sager. I have not read any other book by this author, and let me tell you that I am blown away. I am probably going to end up becoming a Riley Sager fan and reading all of his books going forward. But I'm going to talk about this one. So I know a lot of people are not really keen on reading this book, but I really hope that you do, and it is for all of the reasons that I'm going to quote in this video. First of all, this book is, your quintessential horror. You've got you got a haunted house, you've got a little girl who keeps seeing ghosts, you've got a creepy caretaker of the big mansion, you've got a house that has been not lived in for like almost ever, you've got all the press and the people talking about this house in the news. So everything about this book is actually cliched. You've got murders, you've got anything that you can think of in a horror movie, but I still liked it. And I think one of the main reasons is because despite all these cliched factors that you can see in any horror movie, the book keeps you hooked. So all through the book, right from the first chapter, you're like keen to keep going through the book. You're not at any point thinking, you know what, I don't care, or you know what, I'm just gonna leave the book as is. And I think it's partially because this book is so well written, it's so difficult to flaw it. Now the story revolves around Maggie, who is our main protagonist, and when she was a really small girl, she lived in this huge mansion, and eventually her parents move out of that mansion in like 2 weeks because it's haunted. And then her dad goes around writing a book about this mansion called The House of Horrors, and he publishes it and thereby becomes a huge best-selling author. And Maggie lives her entire life thinking that she has been deceived. She probably does not believe anything that happens in the book that her dad wrote, because she was really small, and she thinks her dad made up the entire story for becoming a best-selling author. And except for like few names that she recollects, like Miss Pennyface or Mr. Shadow, she does not remember anything that happened in the house. And for her, it was her whole life was a facade. But when her dad dies, he leaves the mansion in her name, which kind of shocks her because she didn't know that they still own that mansion. And she, being a huge interior decorator, goes back to the mansion after I think almost 20 years. And that's when the story starts to unravel. And what I really loved about the book was there were two aspects to it. The first aspect or the point of view is from Maggie when she goes back to the mansion and what she goes through. And the second is her dad writing the story of the House of Horrors. And it kind of makes you feel like you're seeing two aspects of a story at the same time from two different points of view at two different time levels. So what happened 20 years back would like happen again 20 years later, except from Maggie's point of view, and then she recollects what exactly happened back then, if you get what I'm trying to say. So that I totally loved about the book, because you keep going back and forth, but you still know what's happening and you have all your answers right in front of you for you to frame the story in your mind. Now, granted, it wasn't like extremely thrilling in the end, with the fact that, it's not like a cliffhanger or anything of that sort. You kind of guess what's gonna happen. But there are a few twists and turns which will leave you agape, and I enjoyed that a lot. What I also totally loved was the way the frightening horror elements were built into the story. So it's really difficult to get that out of a book, and I know there are a few authors who have just accomplished that like crazy. And I know a lot of you read Stephen King, and he's like the epitome of horror books. but there is still something about the way that Riley's written this book, and I think it deserves a recognition. It's not that easy to, capture all the different sounds or the elements of horror, or when little Maggie sees ghosts inside her closet, or anything like that, and put it in a way that doesn't make you feel like, yeah, what's a big deal. So I think that was brilliantly done. And all of the characters in this book, including the inspector that we meet, are so interesting. And Maggie herself is interesting. She unravels a lot of things, but she's not really whiny as well, and there is no forced love story into it. So it's not like, oh, I just hate it when some of these books have these, really forced love interests or love at first sight when you don't even know or don't even think that's a point in the book. But I think all that was really great. So there was no forced love interest. It was just Maggie, her story, her conflict with her dad that she was trying to resolve, her mother who makes an appearance and then tells you the whole story. Oh my god, that part was brilliant. I think that part I did not guess. And so the number of twists and turns, although some of them are predictable, some of them were not. So I would highly recommend it for that reason as well. And one of the other things was that I really wanted to read a good horror novel, and especially it being October last month, I wanted to get something amazingly frightening and not very normal. And I know that there are all of these Stephen Kings again out there that I could read, but something a little more refreshing. So even if this was from a cliched point of view, I think it had a lot of elements that will keep the reader hooked. And for those main reasons, I recommend this book. I know that maybe a lot of you are not into the horror genre, maybe a lot of you are not into the whole haunted house concept or anything like that, but I guarantee that you will enjoy this book, even if it is for a thriller point of view or for a plot-driven story, because all of that you will find in this book. And I highly recommend this, despite it being cliched. So so I look forward for this to become a movie, and a lot of similarities towards the Haunting of Hill House or the Haunting of Bly Manor. I think they're all pretty similar, but they're all very different in their own ways, and I think a true horror fan would learn to appreciate that in a way, that how these stories are different and how they each tell a different story. So and I would put Home Before Dark in the same category as well. So if you like horror, please go and check out this book right away. And if you don't, then give this one a shot and see if you are getting yourself into the genre. Let me know in the comments below if you have read this book, what your thoughts are, if you would recommend this book to anybody, or if you're still not planning on reading this at all. I would still love to know. But thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like, and I will see you in another video. Bye!